I'm Jim Knight, co-founder of the Instructional Coaching Group, and you're listening to Coaching Conversations, where I talk with coaching experts from around the world so that all of us can learn better ways to make an unmistakably positive impact on the people around us.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Coaching Questions Show on the Coaching Conversations podcast with Jim Knight. This show is for everyone who calls the Instructional Coaching Group home for all your instructional coaching content. These episodes are designed for everyone who desires to think and learn alongside Jim and myself as you continue to make an impact with all the great work you do. I'm Jessica Wise, a proud member of our ICG consultant team, and today's episode will be a recap of our 2025 Teaching, Leading, Coaching Conference. Once our Q&A has come to a close, we'll have an epilogue, or a final note at the end of the show with 2 notes to wrap up before we sign off. So, on with the show. Hi, Jim.
Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm happy we're matching today.
We are. I think it seems to happen more and more.
Yes, it's like we only have 2 colors in our closet.
You're rubbing off on me.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I pretty much only have 2 colors in my closet. That's it. It's pretty bland in there, you know. If I wear a light blue, it's like, man, he's stretching out. So
No, I like the black t-shirt. I think this is our signature look on the podcast.
okay, good.
So what's something that's gone well for you since you've been home from TLC?
You know, I feel good about the keynote. You know, it's been a lot of work putting it together, and I'm grateful for all the conversations I had leading up to it. You know, it was about life lessons, and so I got to talk to, you know, Art Costa, who's 91, and Don Deschler, John Saphir, even though his video clip didn't make it into the presentation. And mostly, I could have done 3 times as many video clips, and there are already probably too many. But yeah, I feel really grateful for the chance to do that presentation. You know, another thing is I'm grateful for all the good things I heard about our team, like you, for example, John Campbell. Emily Malatesta came to me and she said, she is just such a great presenter. She is just so professional. But I heard the same kind of thing about just the caring of our team. I think TLC, one thing it does, it validates our little community at the Instructional Coaching Group. So that was really fun to hear. And then TLC, we're going to talk about that today, but it was, you know, I suggested who comes, and the format's already kind of carved in stone, you know, not carved in stone, but it's well set. So I was just delighted by all the surprises. I had no idea what things would look like or where we'd be or what it would be. And everybody did a great job. So I was really felt good about our little B Corp, the Instructional Coaching Group, what everybody put together and made happen at TLC. That's the thing I've been carrying around with me. How about you?
This happens
Your
to
softball team is knocking it out of the park.
I wish. We actually have a game tonight, so fingers crossed we can keep our winning streak going. But what happens to me after TLC is I feel like I'm still riding a wave of inspiration and energy. I feel so energized around the people. I get tired. It's a long day. But the energy people bring to TLC, to have so many people with great hearts and good ideas gathered in one place. And it's just really nice to be around ICG teammates because we don't get to gather in person very often. So I find that even though we hit the ground running after TLC, we get right back to it. There's enough energy to carry me for a while, and I really like that feeling.
Yeah, it's palpable evidence of the good that we do, because there are so many stories we hear from people about what's happening. You know, I just talked to Sean Jones yesterday about what's happening with her in Virginia and their school district, the great things they're doing in Chesapeake School District. And for people on our team who maybe aren't out there meeting people, it's great for them to hear just exactly what the impact is of, you know, keeping kids first, our big thing. So I'm with you. It gives me energy, which is good because I'm not feeling great. I'm kind of fighting shingles. So I've got this unhealthy thing happening inside my body, but there's really healthy thing happening in my soul. So I'll take that. That's going to be good.
Well, we hope you get better real soon, Jim. Well, let's dive into more about TLC, starting with maybe some highlights. So you can go first. What are some highlights from TLC for you, Jim?
Well, I think one of the things, and these are kind of like global things about the conference, not so much specific presentations, but I think one of the things that I like about it is that it's like equal parts inspiration and practical application. So you can use it right away. You're going to hear things you're like, oh, I'm going to use that tomorrow. I'm going to use that with my spouse. Um, and lots of practical stuff you can use. And going to breakouts, you can learn about how to create a playbook or, more refined use of the impact cycle or how to start a coaching program or any number of different practical things. But there's also this broad element of inspiration. And I really felt some of our keynoters in particular really brought that home. Like, really everybody did that, but both day ending presenters kind of did that. Uliana talking about the garden she'd been, the community she built when she was teacher of the year for the United States. And then Hasan closing everything out. It was just, you just felt, I don't know, joy in listening to them, and they inspire you to do more, So you have this cool combination of that. And then another thing that struck me about highlights is I think the conference, it intermingles professional and personal life. Maybe this is an extension of the first thing, but I think there's a real recognition on the part of most people who come, who you are shapes what you do. And we don't focus just on the what you do, and we don't focus just on the who you are, but the two things are put together. And how to be a caring, kind person in combination with how to really be an effective coach. So there's that. And then another thing for me is I love watching the presenters. I learn so much about what different presenters do. And to me, the best presentations are gifts. And what struck me about the presenters that we had at TLC is they were pretty selfless. It wasn't like a big show about who they were. The heart of the matter was kids. What's the impact we can have on children in different ways and how we can work together. And whether it was Kim Scott, who had lots of practical conversations about, or ideas about conversations, or Hasan talking about working with the student who wrote "I hate you" on the little chart she made, and how that connecting with that kid kind of opened things up. So I was struck by, Hasan in particular. She has this way of being inspirational, but sort of recognizing the limitations of human beings at the same time. Because the kid wrote "I hate you" on that little chart. And then she said, so I write, "But I really want to love you," or something to that effect. And then she turned to the group and she said, "But I didn't really mean it." And that kind of combination of, oh yeah, that's the right thing. She really gets what it is to be a human being, and it comes through in humor. So I think, I learned a lot. What I liked about Kim Scott's presentation, and Christian and Roberts as well, is how they combine depth with accessibility. The little 2x2 diagram that Kim Scott showed about conversations was really, really helpful and practical, and yet it wasn't superficial. There was depth to what you had to say, and I like that combination of accessibility and depth, and I kept seeing that over and over again. But what about you? What's your highlights?
Well, thanks for
I
sharing,
could
Jim.
just keep going on highlights, but those are the ones
What
that come to
you
mind.
can. You don't have to stop. All right. Some of my highlights include in-person time with our team because we do work remotely and we are always go, 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 as is everyone. So it's just really nice to be in the same place to reconnect. It feels like we pick up right where we left off the year before. And just to see the talent of our team, the care of our team, and listeners may not know this, but we all gather and set up ourselves. So we're not reaching out and outsourcing that setup. It's us. It's putting our heart, souls, blood, sweat, tears into setting up the conference, packing the bags, caring to make sure that every person gets all the resources. And Erin, what a superstar Erin is putting it together. You call her the Wayne Gretzky, right, of event planning. So
Mm.
our team, I'm just really impressed by our group and how much we care about all the people. Another thing is I wrote down the keynotes. Jim, you're this person for me, and all of the other keynoters were this year too. I love a good storyteller. I think that I'm really captivated by presentations that tell a story, and you're not just standing up there sharing, not just standing up there sharing content or a protocol, a matrix, whatever it may be, but doing it through a story is really connected to me as a person. So you shared your keynote presentation, the research you poured into it through these beautiful stories. And then I love the videos. I wanted more videos. Zaretta Hammond's video had me crying, laughing. I loved all of them. I loved watching John, seeing people really reflect. And there were even pauses where they were thinking about their own stories and lives. And Uliana did it, Natasha Sistrunk Robinson did it. And then I think of people like Hey Sun, Robert, and Christian, whose books I love and I've read cover to cover. And they're like superstars. You're this way to me too, Jim. You're superstars. You're authors of books I adore. And you get on stage and you're a person. And I really connect with you when you really are a human first and you tell these wonderful stories. Like Kim Scott, how she was talking about the mistakes she made as a leader, which was so humbling watching this amazing powerhouse of a leader and author and speaker talk about how she messed up. So I was very inspired, and that was a big takeaway for me.
It's so true. Kim Scott's book is probably one of the 5 most important communication books, business communication books written, and probably a top 10 leadership book, or even maybe top 5. It's a really, really important book, and I'm sure she sold hundreds of thousand copies of the book, and was really, really, um, was really, really excited to get it. But then she showed up, and it was like she's the next door neighbor. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're buddies now, because of the conversations we had. So she had that. I think we all felt like I could be friends with her, no problem. It was
Yeah,
cool.
and she wore jeans and a sweater on stage, and
Right.
her shoe was untied. I thought, "You are just so human and perfect," and I just really connected with her, and I love that even Christian was like, "Should I tell her shoe's untied?" It just it was just there were so many beautiful moments that people sitting next to a keynote presenter or a breakout presenter or anyone, it was a group of people who really care about education, and that's a takeaway every year for me. So we talked about some highlights from TLC. I'm wondering, what are some practical takeaways that you had after the conference?
There's so many, and because I was, sort of the MC and leading the conference, I didn't get to go to everything because there were other things I had to do during the conference. But of the ones I saw, there were so many practical takeaways. One of the things I loved was that little 2x2 diagram that Kim Scott had, and the vertical axis was caring, and the horizontal axis was clarity and directly explaining things. And then she had these 4 quadrants. In fact, I think just about everybody I saw present at TLC seemed to have a little 2x2 diagram like hers. But she described caring but not being clear as ruinous empathy. I thought, like her main message was, it's not kind to be unclear, to hold back and not deliver messages. And then she talked about being not caring and not sharing, and she called that manipulative insincerity. To not care about the person but try to move them around as manipulative. And then she talked about being direct and clear, but not being caring as obnoxious aggression. And and so to be really clear, I think if somebody listened to her talk and say, well, what I need to do is I got to go tell that person what they need to do and not come from a place of caring. And she said the real place of caring is being, or of radical candor, is when you care and you're clear. And then she said, when people are sensitive or defensive, you have to up the caring to make it
Mm.
more effective. And then she talked about how simple things like if the conversation is, the person you're talking to is defensive and trying to turn it back on you, just a simple thing like you could say to them, I'd be happy to talk about that right now, at another time, but let's focus on our topic right now. Simple little things she said that were really practical. And then another thing for me was watching John and Chris talk about growth talk. It's kind of fun to see that new book come out. I think it's going to be a coaching classic. I think it's just such a great book. And I sat in a parking lot with John and talked about that when he was first thinking that it would be a book. And then it ended up Chris really, really is the one who brought it home. But there were so many good ideas in that. There are so many good ideas in that book about how to take a coaching approach to leadership. And they've convinced me that taking a coaching approach to leadership, to see coaching as unleashing the potential of other people, um, and then different ways you can accomplish that, even if you only have a couple of minutes, how to turn the conversation around, and simple little tips on things to ask and how to structure it. What do you want, and what could you do to move there? And what's worked for you in the past? Simple little questions you could use. I thought it was just so practical and useful. And I got a chance to co-present with John and then see Chris and John together. I saw Chris another time. So I was really excited to see Growth Talk come out and hear all that's in that book. It's a good one. That's a good example of that thing that combines the inspirational with the practical. I think it was a good embodiment of it. So those were some of the big things for me. How about you?
Thank you, Jim. From your keynote, a takeaway I had is one of the messages you left us at the end, which was keep the faith. And I wrote that in my journal and underlined it. And I kept coming back to it since your keynote was the first thing to kick off the conference. Each time I'd attend a session, I could feel that message in that session. So if I attended a breakout, which I only got to do one time, but then all the keynotes and talking to people in the hallway, I saw how keep the faith was actually becoming more and more practical for me. People come to us or email and they say, teachers are burnt out right now. The budget cuts, the funding cuts, everything's just so heavy, and students are less engaged or they share numerous things. What can we do? And I just kept hearing your message keep the faith. Keep the faith in each other, keep the faith in yourself and education, in our public or private or any other special entity or school system, whatever it might be. So keep the faith was very practical for me. And I came home and wrote it on a sticky note and put it on my desk so that I could remember that each time that we facilitate or coach or meet with people. It just really meant a lot to me. That was one of them.
Oh,
And
I've
then,
got one more I want to add. Did you have more
okay,
to say?
I do, but you go.
Well, okay, sorry. But I really liked, maybe you're about to say this, so I better say it now so I'll steal your thunder. But anyway, I like I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm grateful for the language that Robert and Christian gave us around interjecting versus interrupting, or interjecting and interrupting. And it's like jumping into the conversation and jumping out of the conversation. I thought that little terminology was really, really helpful. And we don't have to sit like rocks during a coaching conversation. We can jump in and we can jump out. But we'll probably come back to that one because I have more to say about that. But what were your other things, other practical takeaways?
Well, my last practical takeaway was the success factor needs assessment. I was privileged to deliver on the IC toolkit 2 times at the TLC conference. One time was a pre-conference, the other was a breakout. And anytime people went through the success factor needs assessment, they looked up or turned to their partner or shared with me, oh my gosh, I know exactly what to do now. Or, oh my goodness, I had no idea this is where our system was. Or, where has this been all of my work life? And there were just moments of, you talk about radical candor with clarity. There were moments of such clarity as people took that assessment. And I loved seeing, I'm sure you saw that too, groups come together. So leaders come with their coaches, or coaching teams come together, or directors come with the people that they support. They'd sit together and have these magical ahas. There was one table full of people from Utah all working together, seeing them light up and say, this is what we have to do next. Oh my gosh. And hey, we have this book. Do you think we can use this PD time? It was just so magical, inspirational, energetic to see these people become so excited to have a clear pathway for how to make even more success happen in their school systems just because of that tool.
That's very cool. And it's absolutely true. And I think it's interesting that we have to keep saying kind of the same things over and over again. But I forget where I just read this, but you have to say the same thing 7 times before people actually hear it. So keep letting me back to that 7 times the 7 success factors.
7. Yep.
Yeah.
And 7 partnership principles.
Well,
Well, you
there you
wanted
go.
to circle back to interjecting. Go ahead.
Well, that was going to be the thing. You proposed the question, what pushed your thinking? So,
Yeah.
so that was the thing that pushed my thinking because I think that the Robert and Christian challenged us by saying that, and even Robert wanted to use the word interrupting, and Christian kind of reframed it to interjecting. And I'm wondering, do we really need to be encouraged to interrupt more? I feel like I'm always fighting not to interrupt too much, and so it's a conversation. Christian and I are going to be together for 3 weeks in Nepal, so we'll have lots of time to talk about this. We'll probably interrupt each other. But to me, interrupting is a power move where you take control of the conversation, you take it away from the other person. And I think so long as the interjection or interruption helps the other person think more clearly, and is benevolent as opposed to self-centered, then it's okay. But if the interjection takes control of the conversation away, or is all about me more than about them, because I remember once I was interviewing this person in preparation for a keynote the next day, and I wanted to interview a lot of people who are going to be in the keynote, and then I was going to take their ideas and use them. And she said, "Oh, I'm really interested in differentiated instruction." And then I started to ask her all these questions. I said, "Well, how do you figure out where the kids' reading levels are?" And I had all these questions about how to do it. And then she looked at me and she said, "I don't like how this conversation's going," because it was all about me.
Mhm.
And she felt like I was putting her on the spot. It wasn't helping her in any way at all. It was all about me. And I think if your interruption is helping the other person think more clearly, and it's benevolent and not meeting my needs, but helping them accomplish their needs, then I think it's okay. So I'd like to explore that one further. That's one that really pushed my thinking, was that idea of interrupting. And I think Robert likes to be a bit of a provocateur. I think when they talked about radical listening is one that involves some interruption. He has a book called Positive Provocations. But I think they both agree that if it distracts the person from thinking more clearly, it's not that great. And I've heard a lot when we do that little activity where people practice listening and they don't talk and the other person does. They're like, "I really actually wanted you to say something during the conversation." So it got me thinking for sure. But what pushed your thinking from the conference?
Well, is it okay if I return back to what you just said, Jim? Because I'm wondering if there's a connection between this idea from Robert and Christian and what we've learned from Kate Murphy. So I want to share this with you and you tell me your thoughts. So, is it okay to interject if it's a support response? And what makes it less helpful during the conversation is if the interjection is a shift response where we shift the attention back to us. What do you think?
That's exactly how I see it. That's exactly what I think. If it's supporting the other person in their thinking, if it's helping them move forward, then it's a good thing. But if it turns the light to me, if it switches the focus to me, then it's probably not a good thing to do. So I agree with that completely.
Okay, I just had a whole moment and I have to share this with you, even though we're supposed to be talking about TLC, because you've made me coach you a few times in the presentations we do together. I always get so nervous. And I have tried really hard to paraphrase or play back and to hear you say exactly. And I've done it 4 times, I've counted. And this was the time I got the exactly. So I feel really accomplished in my listening skills, having a little celebration for myself, real quick.
Right.
Okay, so the question we're talking about is what pushed our thinking. I have two, and one is from Kim Scott. She said when she was talking about radical candor to pay attention to the responses from other people, to surface awareness about our words, how they're landing, and also how we show up. And that pushed my thinking because I feel like we do part of that. And I believe that I am that coach who tries to be emotionally intelligent and pay attention to how things are landing, but I'm wondering if I really am paying attention to how the words affect the other person. It really started to push me into the question she then told us to generate on our own, which is, how does it feel to be in a conversation with me? Or how did that feel to be coached by me in this moment? So I've made a commitment to start asking the impact coaches that I'm working with this questions. How did it feel to be coached by me in this session? And I want to ask them each time, and hopefully that's okay with them, to see if I can increase my awareness.
That's great. And any way you can do that, I think is an awesome, awesome idea. And I'm kind of stunned by how unaware I am of what I do when I do those things. So getting that feedback would be really helpful. You know, um, I've often said this, but when I write a book, they send it out to readers, and I tell the company to send the book to people that don't really like my work. Because if there are people who like my work will just say they like it, it's not going to be really helpful. I need people who have a negative view of things to point out things I might not otherwise see. And then I get the feedback. Get back and I go, "Who are these idiots? What are they? Don't they see what the point of the book is?" So I'm really angry for like 10 days about the feedback. And then I sort of settle down a bit and I go, "Well, that is a good point, and I can use it, but you sort of have to move through it." And Sheila Heen in her book, Thanks for the Feedback, she said much the same thing, that at first it may be hard to take it, but the feedback can be super helpful. So that's a great one too. One more thing I'll say about Hey Son, and I've sort of alluded to this already, but she was just really honest about what it's like to be a person, where she wasn't candy coating a situation. She was talking about the power of education, the power of learning, the power of carrying relationships. But she did it in a way that wasn't like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I'm not that kind of person. It was more like, yeah, that's exactly what it's like, because she undercut herself, and she would say, well, I tried this, but I really didn't want to try it. Or I was really I was thinking I was going to quit that day because I wanted to go home. Like, there's a real sense in which she gets how complex it is to be a human in the midst. It's messy business, and our self-preservation, all those things can make it harder. And it made me wonder, are we doing that effectively, or as effectively as we could? Could we be even more clear about what a challenge it is to not give advice, or to care for people who are uncaring towards us, or all those kind of things? So I thought that was her transparency, as funny as it was really challenging too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jim. Well, to close out our show today, I have two final notes about TLC. And first, Jim, is what new ideas surfaced for you during our time in Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, I feel like I've alluded to a lot of them already that were really powerful. I thought the jumping in, jumping out. I think Christians talk about the power of silence. Although I knew that, it was really nice the way he communicated it. I felt like the Kim Scott was the one who gave me the most new ideas, and really she convicted me in the whole idea of I have to be kind and clear. So now sometimes when I'm writing an email and I want to get artificial intelligence to clean it up for me, I'll see, please make sure my message is clear and kind. And that's Kim Scott's fault. She's the one who did that. So those would be big things for me. I think some of the things I've already mentioned. What about you?
I took a different approach with this question, Jim. I started thinking, what was I seeing at TLC that inspired me to think of what the possibilities could be? And I guess this goes into our next topic, which is 2026 TLC. There were so many people collaborating at
Mm.
TLC in the sessions, in the hallways, in the bathroom. I mean, conversations everywhere about what it could be like or what they want to do when they go back. People were gathered around books at the bookstore talking about, hey, do you think this would be a good book for our book club or our book study? And I couldn't help but wonder if we could maybe be more intentional about collaboration opportunities for them. Is in our sessions, of course, they have time to work together and talk, but what about people who want to come together and talk about possibilities for large school systems or great ideas you've heard at TLC that you want to try, or even how we can support you as you have these great ideas and want to go back? Collaboration seems like it was happening this year more than I've seen in the past 3 years in person.
Yeah, and it was happening over lunch. Like, it was happening all the time. Sometimes you go to a conference and the last thing people want to talk about is a conference, but people were all in all the time. They were constantly trying stuff out. The app was burning up with all kinds of ideas. So it was very, very cool.
Yes, and that leads us, Jim, to 2026. So, what can we or what are you looking forward to next year in Texas?
So we already know the Don Deschler Award winner,
Oh,
and
how exciting.
and he's already said yes.
Are
So
you going to tell us right here?
no,
Oh,
but do you want to make any guesses?
no, I was not prepared. Let me think about it.
All right. Okay. No,
Okay.
no pressure.
It's not Christian.
Christian's already been a Don Deschler Award winner.
Oh, I
Can't win
missed
it
it.
twice.
Okay.
J-
All right, I'm
John
gonna
and
I'm gonna write down some of my ideas.
John and Christian were Don Deschler
Ron
Award
and
winners.
Christian. Okay, I'm gonna keep thinking about that.
And there's other presenters. It's going to be a stellar lineup. We're really working to get some other people that it may be our best lineup ever. It's going to be amazing. We're really excited about it. One of the things, two things I'm thinking about is for us to be more intentional about first time visitors, especially if they're visiting by themselves, so that when they come, there's people they can right away. So maybe we have a reception for first time visitors or something, just so people have some way of connecting. I like the idea of us having more explicit ways in which people can connect with our consultants. So maybe, we had the different rooms um, where people were, but we could put, if you want to see Jessica Wise, she's going to be in the, Longhorn room. Since we're in Texas, they'll probably be Longhorns, and they're going to be in the whatever, Cowboy room or something. And yeah, that was one thing. One idea that John Campbell had, and I'd love to hear what people think, and they can just email us at hello@instructionalcoaching.com. But he had the idea of having post conferences. And so what post conferences would be is like maybe a 3 hour session 2 months later that happens virtually. So if we have, say, 1,200 people at TLC, if they want to get together in this year, it's going to be 26th, 27th, and 28th of October. But if they want to get together in November or December, maybe right after Thanksgiving, and we could have maybe 2 or 3 of these post conferences to kind of keep the joy happening, and they could zone in on specific things that we only covered in a superficial way in a hour 15-minute session. We could go deeper into whatever it might be.
Mm.
So it could be growth talk, or it could be more about how to do peers goals more clearly, or whatever it might be. But have these post conferences. So that's one thing I'm thinking might be kind of fun too.
That's wonderful. Do you have a theme picked out for 2026?
Well, I think we're going to stick with our theme, keep kids first. I think it's unifying, and it's something we can all get behind. And I think we just want to keep that theme front and center. So the theme, instead of having like this year was a good theme, it was learning from experience. But I think the core is keep kids first. That's the key. That's how we construct our professional learning, and that's the heart of the matter. And I think people are inspired by that idea. So I think we're going to stick with that. We're going to
I
keep
love
that
it.
as our theme.
Also makes for a great sweatshirt.
That's right. I've got it. I've got one right in there.
Okay, ready for more of my guesses?
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, Chris Monroe,
Keep going. It's not going to be. It's never anybody
not
internal
a
to our
teammate.
company.
Michael Bungay Stanier.
Keep going.
Okay, Richard Boyatzis,
Keep going.
Dan Pink.
Yeah. You heard me say male.
Yeah,
You got any more?
that's it. That's all my sticky note could hold.
It's possible you picked the winners.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, maybe I'll start narrowing my list down. And each time you and I meet to co-present, maybe you can give me more clues.
Right.
And people listening can stay tuned to see if I get it right.
Right.
Okay.
But it is this year is Margot Weedley was a woman, and this next year is a male, and that's all I'll give you. That cuts out 50% of the possibilities right there.
Yes. Well, Jim, is there anything else you'd like to say about TLC?
Um, it's just my dominant emotion is gratitude. I'm grateful for the presenters. I'm grateful for the selfless way in which they interact with other people. They make themselves available. Most of the keynoters stayed the whole conference for 2 days, interacted with people, went to the breakouts, got to know each other. And others who didn't do that just couldn't do it given their calendars. So I'm really grateful to them, but I'm mostly grateful to the participants. It's a cliche to say we couldn't do it without them, but it's more about, when you walk into the room, like, oh, this is going to be good. You can just feel it. And so I'm really grateful. I don't know what it is that makes it happen. I was wondering, what do you think? What is it that makes it happen? That whole positive vibe at TLC.
Mm, I think it's a conference unlike any other conference offered in education, first of all. But I think it's just that people realize that we are student focused in our approach, and they come here to get their cups refilled. I said this to you yesterday, I think, and they come to get refreshed and new ideas and leave inspired with actionable plans. I think that's the energy we feel is they know they're going to come and walk away inspired.
And so, yeah, you said some people said to you that I didn't realize it, but this was exactly what I needed.
Yes.
And others just said, this is exactly what I needed. And it's reciprocal. Anything we give out, we get back tenfold from the audience. It's really a wonderful community that emerges. It happens in a small way in the virtual institute and the face-to-face institute. But when it's 1,200 people in the same room, and virtually, I think it's probably cool too. Well, that's another thing. We're thinking about doing virtual live, one in Australasia, one in Europe, which would
Ooh.
service the Middle East and Africa. And then we'd have hosts, some of our consultants, who would do sort of live conversations. Then we would play recordings. When you watch the Olympics and they're in Japan or something, and so you're watching it 10 hours after it happened, but it feels like it's live. We want to maybe create that kind of experience around the world. So people in Kuala Lumpur or Sydney or Rome or Dubai, they could all watch it kind of live. That's what we're thinking about. Another thing we're thinking about too.
Love that idea. We can reach more people.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Jim, for sharing about TLC. It was an awesome experience. And thank you, everyone, for listening today. If you found today's episode helpful, it would help us if you liked or followed the podcast. You can also leave us a rating or a comment so we can continue creating meaningful content just for you. Thank you. And until next time, go forth and lead great coaching conversations. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jessica.